Delivering new communities is an incredibly important part of what we do at the Church Commissioners, whether it's new housing, affordable housing, space for community infrastructure, local facilities, or employment space. There's a huge amount going on, and it's a very complex process and not always without controversy. To understand this better, I wanted to explore what strategic or development land actually means, how the right locations for growth are identified, and how sustainability is built in from the very start. Firstly, I spoke to my colleagues Joe and Tom about how we plan for new communities, the scale of what we're delivering, and how our frameworks are helping us do so responsibly.
Sites that we bring forward through the planning system are intended to develop and contribute towards sort of both existing and new communities. We have a strategic land portfolio that has the ability to deliver about 30,000 new homes, of which about 9,000 will be affordable, and about 7 million square foot of employment space as well.
I think our focus is on delivering thriving communities rather than just houses, and we are trying to bring that forward more formally through an environmental, social and governance framework. So the ESG framework is one of our sort of key responses to the Archbishop's Coming Home report, and the framework is sort of intended to give us a structure to maximise the benefits that we're delivering across our sites in relation to coming home, to deliver more, to deliver better and to deliver consistently across our projects.
Farmland is obviously an incredibly important aspect of land in the UK. How does one decide if it is right to take forward and become housing, for example?
Well, it is a tricky question in terms of a lot of the Commissioners' farmland is highly productive, but we're also balancing that up against the growth requirements and needs of local areas. We're really working with local councils to understand and determine the balance between the two uses.
I know planning applications are not without controversy. Can you talk about some of the ways in which we have to engage with the community to make sure we deliver the right type of schemes?
Yeah, it's something that we take really seriously, that we want to start early and have continuous engagement throughout our projects. They do have an impact. So we're keen to make sure that communities are aware of what we're doing, why we're doing it, how the proposals will come forward, how the community will be impacted, looking at how construction phases might impact the community, but also hopefully to the positive as well, and trying to really set out how the benefits of new development, the provision of new homes, the provision of new employment space, but also the social infrastructure that comes alongside these developments.
As Joe explained, we collaborate with a wide range of experts to help shape sites that will grow into thriving communities. I wanted to hear more from those specialists, starting with Graham and Nolan, who guided me through the complexities of the planning process and what it takes to design successful places.
We work as planning consultants for the Church Commissioners, and that essentially involves navigating what is a very complex planning process. So that's really sitting alongside the church, reviewing the development potential of your land portfolios, and then identifying opportunities to take land forward for development through the process. So that could be through the local plan process, that could be preparing planning applications depending on the scale of the development.
So this isn't just about the need for new homes, which is pressing. It really is about understanding how a place can be enriched, can be added to, and what might that comprise. And that gives us real opportunity to think, well, what is the opportunity here? How can something that is special, that is beneficial, be brought forward?
So from your perspective, how do we work on ensuring that we deliver as much as we can for new residents, new communities, as well as existing?
Yeah, I think as Graham was saying, and it starts with really understanding the place, understanding what the opportunities are, where perhaps the deficits are in terms of local provision. That could be in terms of local footway, cycleways. It could be in terms of formal recreation areas, so sports pitches. But doing that sort of audit of where the gaps are, what your scheme could hopefully bring forward to meet some of those needs is always absolutely critical from our perspective. And then really it's the communication of that and the engagement with the local community is key. So we're looking at areas of the country where there are large employment and housing needs. And the opportunity, therefore, to work with the commissioners over the long term to come up with sustainable development schemes that we can be confident actually will meet those needs, will provide high quality development.
Graham, from your perspective, what are some of the components that have to go into building a genuinely vibrant and sustainable community?
We've all seen too many developments in this country that are basically houses, gardens, roads, not much else. And we for quite a long time have advocated the fact that landscape, public realm, green space, green infrastructure, habitat for nature should be interwoven. They should be integral.
I also visited a newly established community to meet the landscape designers shaping the spaces between the homes, creating green corridors, supporting biodiversity, and building the kind of connections that brings communities to life. From an ecologist perspective, can you talk about how nature and biodiversity is also thought about from a master planning perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. It really is to do with the assets on a site. So we look for the high value habitats and where they are within the site and how they integrate into the wider landscape, and also the varied species that you might have within those habitats. That's the plants, the trees, but also various protected species such as grey-crested newt, badgers and bats, for example. So we try to understand all of the ecological assets within a particular piece of land that's under assessment. I think dealing with nature comes with its challenges with regards to things like protected species and how we manage those and work with those within a scheme, but there usually is space for species and for habitats to thrive within development sites. I'm really looking to sort of maintain those species within developments and also bring in new opportunities for the species. So you may have example of a new water body feature that's created in what was former arable land, and that will bring in a range of species, whether that's bats and birds and invertebrates as well. So it really is working with the assets you have.
Landscaping design might sound like I'll just put some walkways in, a few trees. Like, could you give some examples of like some of the thinking that has to go into it?
So I'd say the landscape profession's changed over the last couple of decades. Initially, and this was a scheme I was involved in about 15 years ago, an engineer told me that the landscape was really just the garnish on a scheme, and that is how it was thought of 20, 30 years ago. But actually now there are appreciations in planning, in the communities that landscape gives us a lot more. And so we're integrating sustainable drainage, biodiversity net gain. We look at COVID and the amount that people were valuing the public open spaces. Traffic and transport is starting to change, and we're really starting to move into active travel and integrating active travel into the landscape as much as possible. And there's a lot of conflicting inputs that we need to weave together to make sure that we're optimising those benefits really for the environment and for the communities that we're creating.
The commissioners have worked for many years with the Borough Council and our chosen developer, Crest Nicholson, to bring forward a new village called Finbury. While there, I spoke with Mark and James, who are playing a vital role in delivering the next phases of this vision. I had a chance to explore some of the site, but it'd be great if you could talk about how big the site is and some of the details around it.
The overall scheme is for 1,100 units, but it's just not just residential, it's a wide infrastructure. We've delivered massive national highways junction into the site, bridges and connectivity into other parts of the development, play areas, landscape open spaces. In terms of the wider infrastructure, we've got a primary school that's been open for quite a few years now, which serves not only just this development, but obviously the wider community. We've got a local centre that church missions will be delivering shortly. We have a community centre with a Mugger football pitch, which is due to be built. And then there's 3 play areas across the whole development as well.
Mark, sustainability is obviously a big subject. It's incredibly important. Can you give some examples of some of the ways in which a site like this would have to think about sustainability and embedding it?
Well, Finbury is a great example of delivering sustainability across a development. So from an environmental perspective, biodiversity is really important here. So on our houses, we've got a number of
artificial habitats such as bird and bat boxes for some of the local species like swift, starling and house sparrow. We've also got, as you can see behind us, a sustainable drainage system, so that mitigates against flood risk, and especially with a change in climate, that's especially important. You can hear some of the bird song around us as well, and the mature planting, so it's just a great solution for managing flood risk. There's plenty of challenges from a sustainability point of view. I think one of the key things is trying to integrate new development with the existing environment. And I think that's something that Finborough has done fantastically well here. Just sat in the heart of the development, we can see just over our shoulder there is an ancient woodland called Captain's Wood. And we've had to work really carefully around that area to make sure it's well protected and we're not disturbing any of the existing trees.
Finally, I travelled to a recently completed scheme in a rural Kent village, where I spoke to some of those most closely involved. My colleague Matt, our delivery partner's chief executive Martin, and most importantly, Maria, one of the first residents to move in. It was a powerful reminder of how our work on paper creates real homes, real partnerships, and real impact.
So this is a scheme that's been developed by English Rural, who are a housing association, in conjunction with the local Community Land Trust and the Church Commissioners. So it's a scheme of 13 new homes, 10 of which are wholly affordable and 3 of which are market bungalows, which had the intention of giving opportunities for existing residents to move from the village in homes that may no longer be suitable for their needs, to come into a bungalow but still be within the community that they've lived in for a long time. We identified back in 2021 in excess of 70 sites that we thought were possible new shepherds. Well, we've now been out to talk to various housing associations, and this is across the country, from Devon to Kent to Carlisle to Durham. It really is national.
It's about taking the community on the journey with you, so they understand actually what you're trying to do when you're building the houses, because there's always some nervousness around when you go to community and you say we're going to build some new houses. So it's helping that community to understand that they're going to benefit that community, that they're going to be designed fantastically like these here today. We're making sure that that the school and the shop and the pub remain viable, not just now but into the future as well. And I think without us working with the community and doing that, so many of those services would be at risk.
Maria, lovely to meet you, and thank you for having us in your house.
You're very welcome.
Would you be okay just to tell us a little bit about your experience and how you got to come about moving into here?
My husband and I have been living in the village for a while, and we actually lived in a house literally across the road. So we didn't want to move. We were in a privately rented house, and the rents were going up as they are to a level that we just couldn't afford anymore. And our landlady was talking about further increases. So we thought we were going to have to move out of this lovely village that we just really love. We've got lots of friends here. It's a wonderful community. The thought of having to leave was a huge wrench to us.
How do you feel that the development has worked for you and for the wider community?
I can understand that there was some opposition to start with, because it was a field and people like to keep their green spaces. But the need for affordable housing is huge. There's such a need. So I think going forward, the fact that families can be kept together, some people have had to move out of the village in order to find affordable housing. The ones that were allocated properties have been able to move back and be part of their families again, so they've got their support networks back. And going forward, the older generation whose families had to move out that have come back will also be supported. So I just think that's a really important point to make.
I always knew that the planning system was complex, but spending time with experts and ultimately residents on just how all that can come together to deliver new space and new places to live has been an incredibly humbling experience. And I'm especially proud to spend time with my team and those they work with on the questions they ask about how we can deliver more and deliver better.